I am John Platt. I am one of the owners of the Midway Mercantile. I'm also the chef and general manager of the Mercantile.
That's some fun loving right there.
So I grew up back east in Rochester, New York, but when I discovered Colorado as a young skier, I fell in love with the mountains. I ended up moving to Colorado in my 20s. I worked as a school teacher, eventually became a school principal up in the Northwest, and lived in Seattle for 30 years. And when our friends moved down here and we would visit, I suddenly sensed a chance to get back to the mountains. And they were the ones who actually called us after a crazy evening of thinking about, oh, we should open a restaurant down here. We then came down to visit, to look at this building. And literally in 24 hours, we said, we're gonna buy this building. It was an antique store at the time. We're gonna turn it into a restaurant. We're gonna sell our restaurant of 17 years in Seattle and change our life. And I got to come back to the mountains, and we got to come to this amazing building. So this building was kind of a slam dunk for us. We came in the door, big windows, looking out at Timpanogos, looking across the street at horses right there on Main Street, and the beautiful Bonner homes that were right across the street. And it was like, oh, this is perfect. And also, the building was right up at the street. And you know, many of the buildings on this main street are set back a little bit, which is quite gorgeous, but for a business presence, it's really great to be right up at the street. So here we were, that we could be right up at the street, very present, and yet be surrounded by all of this kind of bucolic and historical beauty. So for us, it was, I guess the other thing was, you know, I did a bunch of reading once we decided we were going to buy this building, and just trying to figure out about Midway, and you know, is it midway between what, or you know, all this stuff, and just fell in love with how old this building was. And actually, in the work we did, it was kind of trying to take it back to where it was. Well, you know, I think it was interesting how we kind of, I wouldn't say developed this plan, but how it came to be. So we looked at this great old building, and I think for Sandra and Pablo and I, the three owners, we thought it's a mountain town restaurant. So it doesn't need to be too fancy, but we wanted to put a little swank into that history. And so, you know, seeing these incredible brick walls, it's like, well, don't change that at all. And the great wood floors, but how could we just put a little something on it so that it would become both a special event restaurant as well as a casual restaurant. And you know, we met, so this was an antique store, and in the back room, the granary, it was being rented out to a gal who was a designer, or she was an artist. So she was painting in there, Terry Pena. And we met her and chatted and all this sort of thing. And at some point along the way, she mentioned that she had done design work. And then she pulls out all this stuff that she's done. And we're like, well, you're it. And she got what we were talking about. And she drew just a sketch that, I mean, if it took her 10 minutes, I would be amazed. It looked like it took 4 hours, but I think she did it really quickly. And that sketch was sort of like, oh, that's exactly what we're going for. And she is the one who was able to bring some swank while keeping all the history. I think we had that vision, but she grabbed it and transformed it. So one of the great things about the building was how naturally awesome it was. But right behind me and right over there, where this bar is now, there was nothing but stucco. And my son, who was 8 at the time, he just turned 8, and we got here in August and school hadn't started. And I was like, well, let's see what's behind that stucco. So he and I put on our earplugs and our goggles, and we got a hammer and chisel, and we started chiseling away at it all. And literally, he and I together, him as much as I, chipped away all this stuff, and this is what came out. It looks exactly the same as that, and we didn't have to do anything except take off that. Then he went back to school, and I went to work on the outside of the building that was also stuccoed with the chicken wire, and I pulled all that off and went back to the original brick, which is amazing. It's fun that lots of previous owners of this building have come in and told me stories. And one gal, Eva K. Bonner, who is the granddaughter of Bill Bonner, who lived in the house not directly across, but the other one, and was one of the original Bonner brothers who owned this place. She's given me tons of historical information, but I loved it when, gosh, I wish I could remember which name it was, but they owned this store and lived upstairs, and turned out they had a pet pig. And so they'd cut a hole in the floor and then put it back. Well, it turned out that the pet pig had squirmed underneath the foundation and got himself stuck in the middle of winter. And the story has a happy ending because they got him out intact and he was still alive and went on to be their continual pet. But I love that they just, cut the floor out, pulled the pig out, put the floor back, and that 150-year-old building is still there. So I just feel like being able to come here to this town, to be in this old building, which I don't even think of as an old building, I just think of it as an historic building. And look across the street at that building that was built, I think, that home that was built probably 2 years before this building was built. Sandra, we bought the building down the street that she's in, another, late 1800s building. It's just so, charming is the wrong word. It's not Hallmark, it's just because it's real. I guess that's the thing that blows me away about this building in this town, is that it's real. All these old buildings are real, and we're taking good care of them. And I think about, somebody could have bought this and torn it down. What a disaster. And it's so big and beautiful and right up front, and it kind of yells out to the whole town, this is what we're doing here. We're not tearing stuff down and putting up fake versions thereof. And I won't name any building names, but there are some buildings in this town that are brand new, that tried to look kind of old, and we all know this is the real deal. Those across the street are the real deal. The horses in the pasture next to the cannery, is that what they call it down there? That's for real. And I just feel grateful that we get to be part of it. Well, I do think one of the things striking about this building, and whenever I look at any of the brick buildings, is how sturdy it is. That our renovation, we had to put in all the plumbing, all brand new electrical, there's a lot of money in all of that, but I can't see why this building won't be here for another 150 years. It's so sturdy, Those bricks are 3 or 4 bricks deep. I'm amazed by that, and I also, so the folks from the Hardy Foundation have become quite good friends, and they come down and, they own several properties in this town with the express reason to keep them historic. And they're related to John Watkins, who actually made the bricks that are in these brick buildings. So they're related to him, and their efforts have been very instructive to me in how to keep track of the history and how to keep it going forward.